Well, yeah, he's very, very confident. So he's
Yeah.
a very confident young man. And
Mhm.
once again, he is so confident in himself because I think he knows that he can thread that needle. He can put it on the money. He's
Yeah.
really good at that. And I've heard that when he's running the scout team, that he has dazzled teammates and coaches almost on a daily basis with some of those throws.
The Cleveland Browns insider world just blew up with the worst news yet about how badly Kevin Stefanski handled Shedeur Sanders. And this time, it's coming from the most trusted source in Cleveland sports media. Mary Kay Cabot, a well-known Browns insider who has covered the team for decades and knows where all the bodies are buried, just ripped into Stefanski for not giving Sanders first-team reps, which is inexcusable. But that's not even the most shocking part of this story. While all of this was going on the field, Shedeur Sanders was dealing with something even worse off the field. 3 thieves broke into his house while he was at the Ravens game because they knew he would be out of town. And security cameras caught the whole horrible crime, which is now going viral on the internet. We're going to go over everything that just happened in what could be the craziest 24 hours in the history of Cleveland Browns quarterback. Mary Kay's harsh review of Stefanski's coaching mistakes. Jerry Jeudy's shocking comments about what he saw Sanders do during that crazy game. The shocking home invasion that happened while Sanders was trying to make his NFL debut, and what all of this means for the future of the Browns' quarterback situation, as this team gets more and more dysfunctional. This story keeps getting crazier with each new piece of information, and you really need to know the whole truth about what's going on behind the scenes in Cleveland.
Yes, absolutely. They're going to try to give him all that he can handle. And the thing about the Browns right now is they have 2 tackles who were limited in practice yesterday with knee injuries. And then you had David Njoku, who really helps out in the blocking game.
Let's talk about the off-field nightmare that Shedeur Sanders had to deal with while he was in the middle of his first NFL game. 3 men casually walked around Sanders' property, broke in, and stole valuables while Sanders was on the field in Baltimore, getting thrown into the fire against the Ravens' defense. Watching the video makes me so mad. These cowards knew exactly when to attack. They knew Sanders wouldn't be there for the game. They knew there wouldn't be anyone home. And they used that information to commit a crime that is becoming alarmingly common in the NFL. The video shows these 3 thieves going through Sanders' house like they own it, going through his things, taking bags and valuables, and completely invading his privacy and security. The text on the video says everything. Someone who knows what's going on said they can't wait for these criminals to sell those bags because what happens in the dark always comes to light. We promise that these thieves will be found and caught. And to be honest, they deserve everything that is coming to them. This is sad. This is a cowardly thing to do. These are grown men who either can't find real work or don't want to put in the effort to do so. So instead, they go after a young athlete who is out there trying to make his dreams come true and build a career. This isn't the only time this has happened, which makes it even more disturbing. In the last few months, organized theft rings have broken into the homes of several famous NFL players. These rings keep an eye on the players' schedules and break in when they know the players will be at games or team facilities. During a Monday night game, someone broke into Joe Burrow's house. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes both had their homes broken into on the same weekend. Bobby Okereke, Linval Joseph, and a few other players have said that they have had similar break-ins. This is clearly a coordinated criminal operation that is going after NFL players in particular. It's getting worse to the point where player safety and security is becoming a real concern for the whole league. It breaks my heart that Shedeur Sanders has to deal with this invasion of his home and personal space while also going through the most stressful and high-pressure time of his young professional life. Picture this. You're thrown into an NFL game without any preparation, up against one of the best defenses in football, with the whole sports world watching and judging every throw you make. Then you find out that while you were trying to win, criminals were in your home stealing your things. That's the kind of emotional and mental weight that no new quarterback should have to bear. And it gives us more information about how hard Sanders' situation has been. The worries about security are real and important. These aren't just random break-ins. People who are clearly keeping an eye on NFL schedules and tracking when players will be away from home are committing these planned crimes. The fact that it happened to Sanders during his first game makes it feel even more targeted and mean-spirited. But it's probably just bad timing for a crime pattern that has been going on for a while. No matter what, prayers go out to Sanders, not just for his football career, but also for his safety and security off the field. People shouldn't have to worry about their homes being broken into while they're at work. And the fact that this keeps happening to NFL players shows that the league and the police need to do more to keep these players safe. But let's talk about the on-field story that is taking over Cleveland sports media and causing complete chaos in Browns Nation. Mary Kay, who is as well connected and trustworthy as any NFL insider, just gave the most damning criticism of Kevin Stefanski's handling of Shedeur Sanders. Mary Kay was asked if the Browns should have given Sanders first-team reps during the season when she recently talked about the quarterback situation. And her answer was clear-cut and brutally honest. She said 100% they should have, and she didn't hold back in explaining why Stefanski's failure to do so was organizational malpractice. Mary Kay said that it is normal for starting quarterbacks to get most of the practice reps and for backups to get very few. She knows that most backup quarterbacks in the league don't get a lot of practice time with the first team. But this is where her analysis becomes very important. She said that the Browns are in a situation that is unlike any other. They're the only team in the NFL that has two rookie quarterbacks in this situation. Most backup quarterbacks have played in the NFL before. Most backup quarterbacks aren't helping another rookie who also needs to get better. The Browns' situation was very different from what usually happens with backup quarterbacks, so they needed to do things differently. Mary Kay's reasoning is solid and can't be argued with. You need to get Shedeur Sanders ready to be a backup quarterback if you plan to make him one. That means he needs to work with the first-team offense at least a few times a week. Even just a few snaps where he takes the ball from Ethan Pasich, throws it to Jerry Jeudy, lets the offensive lineman hear his cadence, and gets a feel for how the receivers move and run their routes. Basic training that would let Sanders play if he had to go into a game. Mary Kay called out the Browns directly for not giving Sanders any first-team reps at all. But Mary Kay went even further and made a point that gets to the heart of this problem with the organization. She said that she had written a column earlier in the season saying that Sanders might be better off not being the second quarterback because she knew he wouldn't get the reps and there wouldn't be a game plan made for his skill set if he had to play. Think about how bad that is. A veteran writer who covers this team every day could see months in advance that the Browns were setting Sanders up to fail by making him the backup without actually getting him ready to be the backup. She literally said this exact disaster would happen, and she was completely right when Sanders was thrown into that Baltimore game and looked completely lost. Mary Kay's point about the game plan is very important and often missed when people talk about getting ready. Even if Sanders had gotten more practice reps, the offensive game plan for any given week is based on Dillon Gabriel's strengths and weaknesses. All of the plays, routes, and protection schemes are made with Gabriel as the starting quarterback in mind. When Sanders comes into the game cold, he has more than just a lack of chemistry with his receivers to deal with. He's running an offense that wasn't made for him, calling plays that don't make the most of his skills, and working in a system that was made for a different quarterback. That was yet another thing that made his debut even harder than it had to be. Mary Kay's alternative suggestion was the most powerful part of her analysis. If the Browns weren't going to give Sanders first-team reps and weren't going to get him ready, they shouldn't have made him the backup quarterback in the first place. Keep him on the third string as a project for the future. Get a veteran free agent to be the real backup. Don't make it look like Sanders is the backup quarterback when he isn't doing any of the work that comes with that job. That would have been the honest way for the company to act. The Browns instead gave Sanders the title of backup, but still treated him like a distant third stringer. And that dishonest way of doing things is what caused the disaster we all saw. Now, let's talk about what Jerry Jeudy said about Shedeur Sanders after the game. It gives us important information about what Sanders was going through on the field during his first game. Judy, who is supposed to be Sanders' top receiver and said he had never thrown a ball to Sanders before game day, talked about how Sanders got more confident as the game went on. Judy said that Sanders took a long time to build up his confidence at first, which makes sense given the situation. Of course, the first time you throw to your receivers in a real NFL game against a tough defense, you'll be slow and uncomfortable. But Judy saw that Sanders became more and more sure of himself and at ease as he got used to the game. Judy's comments about the moment in the third quarter when everything was on the line are very telling. He basically said that Sanders knew what was at stake, knew he needed to get back on track after his early problems, and that you just had to keep playing because mistakes will happen and not every play will be perfect. That's a veteran-level point of view from a receiver who saw Sanders fight through the worst possible debut conditions and almost tie the game on that last drive. During that game, Judy saw something in Sanders that made him believe the kid can play if he gets the right training and support. The bigger picture is that everyone around Sanders, from his receivers to the media covering the team to fans watching at home, can see that he was set up to fail. Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff who made this mess are the only ones who don't seem to want to admit it. It's important that Mary Kay calls them out in public because she's not just trying to get clicks. She is a respected journalist with a long history of being honest, and she chooses her words carefully. That the Browns should have given Sanders first-team reps and didn't do so is important when she says 100%. That is an accusation that the company can't ignore or brush off. The fact that there are two rookie quarterbacks is the most important thing that keeps getting lost in discussions about standard backup protocols. Yes, most backup quarterbacks don't get a lot of first-team reps, but most backup quarterbacks are veterans who have been in the league for a long time and know how fast and complicated the NFL is. You can't treat one of your two developmental rookies like a veteran backup who doesn't need to get ready. Both players need practice, both need to get better, and both need to be ready to play because you really don't know which one will be your future or even your present. Stefanski's choice to give all of the developmental resources to Dillon Gabriel while not giving Sanders any real preparation shows what he really cares about. He wanted Gabriel to do well because he was his pick, the quarterback he believed in, and he probably pushed to draft him in the third round. Sanders was the choice of the organization that ownership made him make. Stefanski's answer was to basically refuse to develop him. That's not how a professional coach would act. That's small-minded office politics that put team success and player development on the back burner to make a point about who's in charge. This failure has effects that go far beyond just one bad game. That terrible performance in Baltimore has now hurt Sanders' reputation. People who only saw that game will always think of him as a quarterback who couldn't handle NFL football. His confidence took a hit, even though the truth is that he never got a chance to get ready for NFL football. His timeline for growth has been messed up, and worst of all, his future with the Browns is now in serious danger because Stefanski has shown that he doesn't want to coach him or give him real chances. Mary Kay's admission that she saw this disaster coming months ago and even wrote a column saying Sanders shouldn't be the backup because of how it would play out is an amazing example of journalistic foresight. She noticed that the organization wasn't working well. She knew that Stefanski's way of getting backup quarterbacks ready wouldn't work with two new players. She tried to warn everyone what would happen, and it did happen just as she said it would. That level of accuracy in predicting the failure of an organization shows how clear the problems were to anyone who was paying attention. This wasn't an accident that couldn't have been predicted. This was a disaster that everyone could see coming from a long way off because of bad coaching and poor organization. The comparison to how other teams handle backup quarterback preparation is instructive. When teams have young quarterbacks who are still learning, they find ways to give both players meaningful reps. They split the first-team periods. They plan out specific practice times when the backup can work with the starting receivers. They make the players compete with each other, which helps both of them grow. The Browns didn't do any of that because Stefanski didn't think Sanders was worth developing. He decided early on that Gabriel was his guy, and he stuck with that decision no matter what happened or what was best for the company. Browns fans are now praying not only for Sanders' success on the field, but also for his safety and security off the field. This adds a human element to the story that goes beyond football. This is a 22-year-old kid trying to make it in professional football while dealing with a dysfunctional organization, neglectful coaching, public criticism, and now a breach of his home and personal space. Most people would give up if they had to deal with as much as he does. And the fact that he's still fighting and trying to prove himself shows how strong and tough he is mentally. The home invasion is especially scary because it shows that organized crime is going after athletes more and more. These crimes don't happen by chance. These are planned crimes by criminals who are smart enough to keep track of players' schedules, figure out when homes will be empty, and break into homes on game days when they know players will be busy for hours. This is a national problem that needs a coordinated response from law enforcement and league security because it keeps happening to different players on different teams. The timing was terrible for Sanders. You finally get to play in an NFL game, which is what you've been working for your whole life. But while you're out there trying to prove you belong, criminals are breaking into your home. That's the kind of mental weight that would bother and distract anyone. And it makes his almost comeback against the Ravens even more impressive. Even though he wasn't ready and had to deal with a home invasion, he almost tied the game. He almost made an unlikely comeback that would have completely changed how people talked about his first game. It makes me mad to see the security footage of 3 men casually walking around Sanders' property and stealing his things without seeming to care about getting caught. These cowards waited until they were sure he was gone. They used information that was available to the public about game schedules. They did something wrong that goes beyond stealing things. They also broke into someone's home and made them feel unsafe and unsafe. The video evidence should help them get arrested and charged quickly, and it should also serve as a warning to anyone else who might think that targeting professional athletes is an easy crime. It's interesting that Mary Kay was willing to publicly criticize Stefanski for how he handled Sanders, because beat reporters usually try to keep things diplomatic with coaches and avoid direct criticism that could hurt their access. The fact that she felt strongly enough to say on the record that the Browns were 100% wrong and wrong in their approach shows how bad the failure was. When even the reporters who cover the team every day and need to keep their jobs are calling out the coaches. You know what? It's gotten to the point where you can't be neutral anymore. The bigger question for the Browns now is whether they will really change how they do things in the future or keep going down the same path that hasn't worked. If Gabriel passes the concussion protocol and plays against the Raiders, it means they haven't learned anything, and Sanders' progress will continue to be ignored. If they finally give Sanders a full week of first-team reps and let him start with the right preparation, it means they are at least willing to admit they were wrong and try something new. Based on Stefanski's history and how stubborn he is, the smart money is on the first option, not the second. No matter how this all turns out, Sanders will have a great story to tell. He went from being a first-round talent who fell to the 5th round to being drafted by a team that never prepared him properly. He made his debut in the worst possible circumstances, had his home broken into during that debut, and fought through it all to almost make an unlikely comeback. That's the kind of hard time that can either break a player or make them into something great. The question is whether the Browns will give him a chance to turn this bad situation into a good one, or whether they will keep getting in the way of his progress until he has to start over somewhere else. Jerry Jeudy's comment that Sanders gained confidence as the game went on is important, because it means that Sanders could do well at this level if he prepares well and plays more games. The tools are there. There is no doubt about the arm talent. What's missing is the practice, the chemistry, and the comfort that comes from actually practicing with your teammates and running the offense in situations that are like real games. The organization can fix all of that if they are willing to do so. The question is, if they will. The 3 thieves who broke into Sanders' house are a different kind of coward than the organizational cowardice that didn't get him ready for his NFL debut. Both are ways of taking advantage of someone who is weak. The criminals used their knowledge of when Sanders would be away from home to their advantage. The Browns coaches used Sanders' status as a fifth-round pick with no power to get better treatment. Both are basically about people in positions of power taking advantage of someone who is trying to do well despite having problems. The difference is that the people who break into homes will hopefully be punished by the law, while Stefanski still has no consequences for his coaching mistakes. Mary Kay's remark about Sanders not having a game plan that fit his skill set when he entered the game brings up something that isn't often talked about in quarterback debates. Every offensive game plan is based on the strengths and weaknesses of the starting quarterback. The routes are set up based on what the starter does well with the ball. The protection plans take into account how long the starter usually needs to stay in the pocket. When a backup comes in with a completely different set of skills, they're basically trying to work in a system that wasn't made for them. That's another problem that could be at least partly solved by having a set of plays that are specifically made for the backup's strengths. The Browns are 2-10, which means their season is over and they have 5 games left. It's time to evaluate. This is when businesses plan for the future. It doesn't help to keep bringing out Dylan Gabriel, who has clearly shown that he is not the answer. At the very least, giving Shedeur Sabotage the right training and real chances to show what he can do would help us figure out if he's part of the long-term solution. But from what we've seen, it seems like Stefanski is more interested in protecting his ego and proving he was right about Gabriel than in making the best choice for the company. It is right and necessary to pray for Sanders' safety. There are real worries about his safety both on and off the field because of the targeting by criminal groups and the physical risks of being an NFL quarterback. The fact that fans and reporters feel the need to pray for a player's safety outside of normal injury concerns shows how vulnerable these young athletes are in today's world. The goal is to keep players safe from these organized theft rings by improving security and making sure that law enforcement agencies work together better. What happens next in Cleveland will show how capable and important this group is. Do they keep going with the Gabriel experiment, which has clearly not worked? Do they finally give Sanders the training he needs and see what he can do with real help? Do they get rid of the coaching staff and start over? These questions will not only decide how the rest of this lost season goes, but also how the franchise will grow in the future. And since the Browns have always made the wrong choice at every important moment, fans in Cleveland should probably get ready for more disappointment. What do you think of all this complete chaos? Does Mary Kay's harsh criticism of Stefanski's failure to prepare Sanders change how you see this? Are you as upset as we are about the break-in that happened at Sanders' home during his first game? Should the Browns fire Stefanski right away and let Sanders start over with a new group of coaches? What kinds of security should the NFL put in place to keep players safe from these organized theft groups? Leave your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is not over yet. You need to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now if you want to keep up with all the news about this Browns disaster, and follow Sanders as he goes through all of this trouble. If you don't want to miss any updates, turn on those post notifications. This story is going to keep changing because of everything going on in Cleveland. Hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to join the conversation. Keep an eye on the Browns quarterback circus because it's just getting started.